Hail and welcome to part 6 of Shovel Knight Shovel of Hope, and welcome to the Lost City, which is Shovel Knight's answer to pretty much any fire level that you might recognise from any game ever, you know. Depending on where you're going, this could be your Bowser's Castle, this could be like your Hot Crater. I know that might not be the first thing to jump to most people's heads, but you know, I really like Sonic Advance 2, so that's like my go-to example of a fucking fire level. Or you could also go for things like, you know, your Heatman stage, wherever it may be. But you know, it's a fire level, it looks really amazing, and it's also got these quite irritating little fire-headed enemies that you need to be careful of, because you can't just land on top of them because you burn yourself, but you know. We did just finally see a successful use of the fishing rod power, and that's how I've got this little yellow glow right now, because I managed to pull up one of the Truffle King's little accomplices, I guess, and he gave me the power that will give me 60 seconds of absorbing any jewels towards me, which, you know, it's not the most useful one. It's not the one that I would have picked out of the 3 power-ups. You know, I'm much more into my free heal kind of power. You know, it's a little bit more practical for like ongoing gameplay, whereas like the jewels, you know, I can easily just like pick them up as and when I see them. I don't need them to be sucked towards me through some mysterious drink that I got off of a fish in a lava pit. Yeah, you know, the more I think about it, the more this game sounds a little bit bonkers, but you know, it's cool. But yeah, like if I'm picking between the different powers that you can get off the Truffle King, I go for the health one, because that's just like the most immediately practical power to have. You know, if you're getting worn down by a boss and you want to take them down, particularly some of the more difficult bosses, say like Plague Knight. In my practice run, I did actually have to use the health item to heal myself part way through. I didn't in the recorded run that we saw, obviously, but you know, that's what practice is for. Like saying that, there is a boss later on in this part that I didn't get the opportunity to practice for, so you'll see a little bit of a sloppy take there, but you know, we live. And then I have a meltdown later. But you know, it's all fun here with this serious Let's Play goo I have going on. And yeah, this is the other platforming element that this level brings to the table, in that there are some destructible blocks that when you hit one of them, it starts the chain, and then, you know, like, you've got to be careful not to fall down through the blocks that have already gone away. Basically what I'm getting at is this recording was a retake, where at one point I managed to knock myself into a lava pit by destroying the platform below me, because, you know, I'm not that smart. But it's all part of the fun. Like I said in the last part, at this point in recording, I'm up to Polar Knight and his stage, which we'll be going to next after this level. So far I haven't had any major problems. Like, Polar Knight's stage was the most difficult, as we'll see when we get to him. But even then, like, I managed to get the take down after like probably about 3/4 of an hour or so. So like, you know, this game, it's difficult in some ways, but it's like the more traditional kind of platform has been readapted for modern audiences, because they know that it would be kind of a hard sell to have a really difficult game come out these days that's presented like this. You know, when people think of hard games, they think of, you know, your FromSoft kind of games and whatnot. And being unapologetically retro in terms of difficulty here would probably hurt them. Like, I feel like a lot of people would appreciate the game being difficult, but I feel like it'd be hard for them to find a more mainstream market for it. But saying that, there are still like some design decisions that I feel help this game out in terms of difficulty, and the main one is the fact that this game has infinite lives. You don't have to worry about fucking up a section too much and then getting kicked back to the start, because like as soon as you die, you're put back to the last checkpoint, no matter how many times you die. And I will say that is one of the like situations where I am actually okay with a game kind of casualising, because what it ultimately does, what giving you infinite lives and infinite continues and whatnot does, is it encourages you to continue replaying the game until you've worked out what you meant to do. So it's not like it's making the game easier, it's just giving you more attempts at a difficult section. And that's honestly the best way to kind of get people into more difficult games without alienating people who already like harder games. Because like you still have to go through the more challenging sections in this game. Like they are part of the game, and you can also, if you're the kind of person who wants something more punishing, then there is always the option to destroy the checkpoints as you go along. So you have that option available if you want to make it harder for yourself. But difficult sections of the game are still here. You know, you get as many attempts as you need, and that just makes it feel more rewarding in the sense that you're going to keep trying. Because I feel like with some people, if they've fucked up a section in a game too many times in a row, to the point where it's stopped being fun, then they probably will just move on to the next thing. And honestly, I can't really blame people for that. Because, you know, especially nowadays, there's so many games out there that if you're not immediately having fun with one, then people are naturally going to go on to the next one. And that's one of the things, though. There's always going to be different arguments about difficulty in games and that, but I feel like this is the best balance, where we've still got some decently challenging level design, but it's not too punishing if you fuck up. And granted, I will say this is in terms of games like this. Some games are designed to be punishing. Some games are designed to be incredibly like tough from start to finish. And I feel like if that's the creator's intent, then that should be respected. And yes, I'm obviously getting at the Sekiro discourse here. Because that sure has been a fucking bit of discourse these last couple of weeks. Another time we're recording this part. And I'll say, like, I might as well just say my piece on that, because it's an ongoing controversy in that. But I feel like Sekiro was designed to be a tough game. And I also feel like a lot of the complaints about that feel a little bit disingenuous. Because this is not an accessibility in games debate. Because accessibility in games is making it possible for people to play in the first place. And, like, people who have disabilities, as long as they have adaptive controllers and whatnot, they can play hard games. And I'll probably get back to this once I've introduced Mole Knight here, because he's showing up and I should probably give him the time of day, even though he isn't that hard, really. Like, he darts about all over the place. He's kind of like a less intimidating Slash Man, I guess, in terms of like his whole darting across the screen thing that he's got going on. A couple of other Robot Masters and Mavericks that he reminds me of, but Slash Man's coming to mind, but he's not that hard, and granted, because I've got a lot of health now, I can just sort of cheese my way through without any issue. Like, I'm halfway to beating him already, and I've just been diving around on my shovel. So yeah, he just does his thing, and you know, just as long as you don't let him hit you too many times, he's no challenge. I'll have knocked him out in just a couple more hits, really. But yeah, if I'm going to get back to the accessibility in video games thing, there are legitimate causes for concern when it comes to accessibility in games. Because one that comes to my mind is, a little while ago now, there was a bit of a controversy with the Spyro remasters on PS4. And that was because when they first came out, they didn't actually have subtitle support. So that would basically mean that those game stories are completely inaccessible to people who are hard of hearing. And I feel like that's a legitimate thing to be upset about, because that is a group of people who are being excluded from the game because of a condition that they have, and that was a bad move on the developers not to include subtitles so the game's accessible to people. Whereas, like, when it comes to a game that you're referring to as inaccessible because of the game's difficulty, I feel like that's a different thing. Because that is, like, that's not excluding people, because anyone can repeatedly play the game until they get good at it. You know, like, it's not like a thing of you have this condition so you have no way to experience this game. That's not what's going on there. And like, I feel like, given a lot of that discourse has become a little bit disingenuous, I feel like what we should really take away from it is that if we're gonna go through the accessibility in gaming route, then we should try and make sincere efforts to push actual accessibility means. Because I actually do like what Microsoft have had going on, that I believe is still in development right now, but they've been working on a controller that's designed for people who have difficulties holding onto a traditional kind of controller, and it's got like larger buttons and touchpads laid down, and I feel like that will be pretty cool because that's the kind of thing that, you know, once that's up and going, people who have difficulties holding on to a controller for whatever reason will now be able to play the same games that everyone else can. That is a legitimate positive move for accessibility in gaming, not just dumbing an existing game down. And there are some other things as well, like one thing that has kind of become more apparent over the years that wasn't really a consideration when a lot of older games were about is photosensitivity. One move that Nintendo have made on the Wii U eShop that I have complained about because of how it's integrated, not because of the integration itself, is that those releases of the games, they have a dark filter put over them, so that the sections where the lights are flickering repeatedly, it makes it a lot less intense for people who are sensitive to that kind of thing. Personally, I think things like that should be optional, because it does hurt the quality of the visuals for people who don't suffer from that condition. But I do like that it's there for if people want it. Like, I feel like that should absolutely be an option for people to turn on if they so desire. But here we are with Black Knight again, coming back from the first stage, and Black Knight was just talking to the Enchantress, who is basically this game's big bad. I think I've went over that earlier in the game. But I feel like I could go a little bit more into Black Knight's character here, because I didn't really talk too much about him in the first part. Black Knight isn't a part of the Aldrino Quarter. Black Knight is more akin to like Shovel Knight's rival. I've seen people online describe him as like the Proto-Man to Shovel Knight's Mega Man, which I kind of get. You know, it's that sort of mirror match thing going on when they're battling and that. I suppose with my background, I could also refer to him as like the shadow to Shovel Knight's Sonic to a certain degree. But I have a quote here from his official bio, which I'll just read out here. As the yin to Shovel Knight's yang, the Black Knight calls nobody master. Clad in obsidian armour, he hounds Shovel Knight to the ends of the earth, spoiling for a battle. The Black Knight's skill with the shovel blade rivals that of Shovel Knight, or so the Black Knight hopes to prove. While Shovel Knight is confused as to why he has this mysteriously relentless doppelganger, no number of humiliating defeats by Shovel Knight can dampen the Black Knight's spirit, who will always rise up to fight again. So he's an absolutely determined bugger for a rival. Ladies and gentlemen, join me next time where I'll be going after a Polar Knight. I'll see you then.